Well, I'm going to try and follow up on that. My name is Jared Tuzai, and I'm a resident at 12 Englewood Lane here in Madawan. I am the father to a 7-year-old girl going to 3rd grade in Strathmore Elementary School, father to 2 other non-school age children, 2 and 4. I'm also the husband of an amazing wife who, over the course of the pandemic, has worked as a registered nurse in 2 separate local hospitals. And she works in the emergency room of both hospitals. Our children mean the world to us. We never put them in harm's way. They're priority number 1 to us beyond belief. You guys have no clue what these kids mean to us. The reason for my appearance tonight are my concerns with Governor Murphy's Executive Order 251. In that order, it states American Academy of Pediatrics indicated remote learning has been detrimental to educational attainment and has exacerbated a mental health crisis among children. I agree with these findings. I brought these up to you months ago in Zoom meetings, okay? And I've aired these concerns to you guys in the past. My issue, though, right now is the lack of initiative on the district's behalf by you guys to open up schools as fast as possible. I can point to the plexiglass debacle, which delayed our restart, okay? I don't want our board to lack initiative again. And I'd like you guys to be proactive versus reactive. I want you guys to shake the cage. I don't want you guys just to sit up there and do what's easy. I want you guys to make the hard decisions, whether that means that you guys are put in uncomfortable positions. That brings me to my concerns of this executive order. The order states that staff and students must be masked. This is both concerning and frustrating. Daycares, camps, sports, birthday parties, movie theaters, the list goes on of activities that have all resumed this summer maskless. Huge spike? No. The numbers are exactly where they were in May and June when everything became unmasked. The state will wait 3 weeks until school is about to begin to put this order in place. My daughters look forward to school. She finally believed she was going to go back to normal. Okay, it's been now, this is going to be the 3rd year carried over that she's going to have to wear a mask into school. Well, Mom and Dad had to break the news to her that masks were back. She was upset to say the least. No smiling to friends, no facial expression to let her teacher know that she may not understand what's going on, muzzled speech, and a dirty mask. Our reaction, we're parents, we're pissed. Okay, you see my wife? She's not a keyboard warrior or a politician. She lives in the COVID world. She doesn't have an acute perspective, just a few people she knows that had COVID or an extreme case of COVID. No, she lived it every day. She had a well-grounded picture of what really was going on. You see, people not in that world rely on news articles, local governments, friends, co-workers, and most importantly, social media to get their information. Statistics are skewed and manipulated to tell a story. I know this as somebody who 5 years ago founded the Data Analyst Reports and Trend Unit for North Jersey Police Department. We take these real-world stats and we use them to manipulate them to provide whatever narrative that we want. Okay? I'll take real-world experience over data, incomplete data sets any day of the week. And no. Now I'm left to try and explain to my daughter while all summer hanging out with her friends at the pool club, at parks, parties, at her house, she didn't need to wear a mask, but now she does. She wanted to know if people catch COVID only inside her school. She's 7. That's a legit question from her perspective, okay? Because now she just went 3 months hanging out with people next to her, same people she's gonna see in 3 weeks every single day. Now she has to go back to that place. What else is she supposed to think other than that's where everybody catches COVID? Okay, schools now are the only entity where there's a mask mandate, and it's a joke. It's a detriment rather than a protection. My daughter is as shy as they come. Each one of her teachers can attest to that. She came home countless times in the spring of 2020 explaining she had difficulty understanding her teachers because, like many of you, half your face are covered. Okay, you can only see the eyes. The rest of the face is a picture's worth 1,000 words. Your facial expressions are worth 1,000 words. My daughter, she says it affects her breathing. It's uncomfortable to her. She always has to adjust it. She's playing with it. She says it causes her headaches. Like many parents, I'm sure our children's masks get dirty and gross, and what do? You throw it in the laundry, you throw it in with some detergent, and you wash it. How do we know what this detergent is doing to our kids' lungs? You know, who would want to breathe in laundry detergent all the time? You know, there's no studies being done on that, but we're very fast to put these masks on our kids' face. What about the overall effectiveness of masks? Okay, we'll see. How effective have they been? As I said, my wife is an emergency room nurse, so she should know something about this, right? Less deaths of children 0 to 14 were reported in 2021 than the average of the last 2 years prior to that. Hospitalizations in New Jersey, you have no clue what the hospitalization rate is per age. You know why? Because they won't give it to you. They only give you select data. They don't give you data of whether children are in the hospital. Okay? They'll only give you data which are going to go and help their cause. Okay? If they see that the data in the hospitals is all people over 70 years old and no young, healthy people, it's not going to advance their mask mandate or their vaccination mandate. You guys, people are getting manipulated right now by the lack of information that they're actually given. They give you little snippets, but they don't give you the lion's share of the real data that you need for this. Okay, my wife tells me not one grammar school child has walked into her emergency room. She works at 2 separate ones now, okay? For 18 months, not one kid, school-age child has walked into her emergency room and been hospitalized yet. Yet this is what we're worried about. We're worried about these masks. And I heard other speakers say that, oh, I'm worried about my child being on a ventilator. My wife, 18 months, has been working in the hospital the whole entire time. Not one person admitted to the hospital, let alone a ventilator. Masks should be a parent's choice, and at the very least, medical exemption should be honored. And at the conclusion of my comments, I want to know from you guys, what is your plan to handle a medical exemption when a parent gets one for their child? Will they be segregated in their classroom, or will they be allowed to be in the regular classroom with their mask students? Because everybody in this room knows, with a mask or without a mask, you can get COVID. Just like with a vaccine or without a vaccine. We are on school year 3 of COVID, and there's no end in sight. There is no end game, and this is just going to continue and continue. It's time for the board, the parents, and the teachers of the district to band together and to stand up for our children. Please do what the surrounding jurisdictions have done and write to Governor Murphy. But Madam President, we're not asking for clarification. You will get that when he makes his decision. We don't want district choice either. We want parental choice. These are our kids. We want to decide whether our kids are going to wear a mask. Not asking for permission, compelling the governor to have parents have this choice back in the parents' hands. So right now, I've looked back recently at a few campaign promises by a lot of people that are sitting on this dais right now, okay? We have board members in front of me who claim to advocate for people, and that's why they got into public service. Others stated they wanted to fix the disconnect between the community and the administration. Well, this is your chance to actually do that and step up. You have a community right here, right now in front of you, and you know how they feel, okay? There's not people here, except for one speaker, that said that they wanted their kids masked. The majority of the people in this room want their children unmasked. Wake up, listen up, please, respectfully, and please, let this be a personal choice. Let this be a parent's choice. Good night.
I have 3 boys. 2 of them are currently in district. I'm speaking for the special education population. My oldest son has autism and he has 22q deletion syndrome. He has rods in his back. But yet I couldn't get a medical exemption for him from his doctors because no doctor wants to give him, take that responsibility. So last year my child had the chance to come to school for his services only. But he had to wear a mask. Originally, I was told he could not come to school without wearing a mask. So what they did is they put in his IP that he would work on wearing a mask at school. So my child with autism, he learns from his teachers, he knows he has to follow the rules, he actually did put the mask on, but he can't advocate for himself at all. So he just wore the mask, and the second I saw him, he'd rip it off. So here he is, not even being able to physically advocate for himself, but yet the teachers forced him basically to wear the mask because he knew he had to follow what the teachers told him to do, because he had instructional control over him. So I'd like to know what your plan is for, in specific, my child, and other children like him, who are going to, I do not want in his IEP that he will be working on a mask. It's really hard to find a doctor who's going to put themselves out there, a regular pediatrician or anyone who's going to give me medical exemption. So I would like my statement to be, I know what's best for him. He barely even starts speaking until he's 7 years old. He's 10 years old, and I'm basically shushing him by covering up his mouth. Yes, it's personal for me. I get where everyone's coming from. People feel comfortable wearing their mask, that is fine, but I feel like in my situation, it's detrimental. I'm also a special ed teacher myself in another district. I worked in school with masks last year, and it's just, the second the mask goes on the kids, the kids don't talk. I work with small, young population. I pull the mask down and they talk to me. I have kids with hearing impairments wearing masks. This is ridiculous. I just would like to know what the plan is for my special ed child. And then I have another son with extreme anxiety who literally has panic attacks, but I'm going to cover him up in masks and just send him up to school because that's what I have to do. So I would like to know what the plan is for that, besides just sticking him in his IEP that he'll work on wearing a mask.
I understand your concerns, and I completely sympathize. I'd like to ask Ms. Perez if she can reach out directly to you to discuss any potential options further.
Is my child, and I would like to know, I don't want them to be, if they, let's say he doesn't wear a mask, I don't want him to be, anything taken out of him because he's not wearing one, for example, either.
Right.
And he's not the only one. I want to speak, I'm sorry to speak about, but I don't want to speak about my other child as well, I'm not just, he has anxiety, but where does that fall,
Yes, so we'll ask Ms. Perez if she can reach out separately to you.
I'll reach out tomorrow.
How many of you guys are actually parents and are okay with, I'm not trying to be political, but this is where we're at right now. You all are parents, grandparents, aunts, fathers, whatever. How do you guys really feel about the governor co-parenting with you right now? Take your positions right now. How do you really feel about one man telling you, after being pregnant for 10 months, caring for your kids and everything else, how do you feel about this one guy telling you what's good for you and your family? So just take it from that standpoint and fight from there. Don't take it that you're at the board. Take it as just a human being with children in your life, with our choices basically taken away from us. We look at you guys to fight for us. And if any of you don't want to fight for us, you can all just probably step down and somebody will. One of us even may take one of your spots to fight for these people. But at the end of the day, just sit there and think about this. This one man is taking all of these things away from the parent. Since when? I don't co-parent with the government, do you guys? Is he paying your rent? Is he paying anything for you? Fight like you're fighting for your life for our children, and I do not feel like you guys are. I do see things have improved, and I'm not taking that away from you guys. I know you're in a sticky situation. But at the end of the day, really, I don't see the fire in your eyes. I don't. I just see, we'll talk to you later about it. We'll do this, we'll do that. Fight for us. We're asking you to do that. And yes, I'm not even saying that everyone has to walk the same march. I am for choice. If you don't want your kid wearing a mask, don't wear the mask. You want your kid to wear a mask, wear a mask. I work in a lab. I deal with COVID. Legit, look at it, stick it up your nose, do all that stuff, run it through the machines, all that kind of stuff. I came across recently a patient that just got the vaccine in March, fully vaccinated. Doctor sent her back. You got to do my blood for me. Why? My antibodies are only 5.42. I said, wow, that's crazy. Because I just had someone in here that never had the vaccine, had COVID months ago, January. Their antibody level was 204.42. So you tell me what's going on here. You tell me what this one man is due to all of us here. We just want the choice back to the parents. And like I said, not as a board, as people of the community. Fight, 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 fight. That's all we want you to do. We don't want, oh, Mr. Murphy, what do we do here with your word? And no, we're not, that's not going to be good enough. Because he'll just say X, Y, and Z and threaten everybody. But like that person said before, we will fight with you to get us to where we need to be. This is absolutely ridiculous. As for the IEP, my son did attend Cambridge last year. He was forced to wear the mask all year long. I don't get it. If an IEP is an exemption, why was he having it on? He is 4 years old. He can barely tell me what he wants. How is he going to let the teacher know that there was a problem? Thankfully, there wasn't a real issue. But he has an IEP. He's going to Cambridge because he's a little kid with an IEP. But yet was still forced for the mask and probably will still be forced for his mask. I mean, now I have a child who's going to go into first grade. She's petrified to come to school. I took her out of the district last year and sent her privately because of the fact of, first of all, it was virtual, this is that, I had to work, so I had to do something else. There's no way that someone's going to be able to sit home with her on virtual all day long. She was in a private program for kindergarten. When I tell you that they did not put a mask on their face one day, my daughter has not been quarantined, her class has not been quarantined, and maybe out of the whole school, there might have been 2 instances when there was a quarantine. These masks don't do anything. I wear one all day long, just like you're wearing, the cloth ones that we all need. They don't work. I also have worked in the hospital where I have to sit on a machine for about 10 to 15 minutes with suction going through my face for a fit test. A fit test is an airtight seal, and that is the only mask that actually prevents the spread of any type of virus. So when people want to say, oh, I'm a doctor, I wear this all day long, you don't wear the proper mask all day long. You are still coughing and spitting out the sides. It doesn't do anything. Just please, all I'm asking for you guys, my first grader, she is literally petrified to go to school. She is like, Mom, do I really have to do this? You have to go to school. There's nothing I can do for you. Your father has to work. I have to work. There is nothing I can do. Mom, I cannot breathe in this thing. I'm telling you now. I take her to the supermarket and I'm trying to be polite to people. Put the mask on. I'm trying to show her. She turns purple. My daughter's a rule follower. You tell her she can't take that mask off, she won't take it off. She will sit there and suffer until somebody notices what's going on. These are these little tiny kids I'm talking about. When you're older, listen, you're old enough to speak for yourself and do what you gotta do. But at the end of the day, we all see the writing on the wall. You know why this is being pushed. Come in midwinter, they're pushing that vaccine for these kids, and that's gonna be the carrot. Don't let it be the carrot. Don't, because any one of you with a kid under 12 knows that you're on the fence about jabbing anything into your kid's body. And that's what he's doing. And I'm sorry, I don't wanna be political, but that's where it's at. Everything I've called throughout this past year, I talked to the super, has happened step by step. It's just coincidence now that this is going to come out midwinter for them, and he's going to say, oh, you don't want your kids to wear a mask? Go jab them with an experiment. I just had someone text me right now. They were pregnant. They had their baby. 2 hours, the baby survived. Something's in their white blood cell count. What happened? The mother got vaccinated while she was pregnant. This is not okay. Don't let it be the carrot for us. Fight for us. Fight for the right for our kids. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Louis Curry. I'm from BOE 34. I'm going to make this quick. I want to know what you guys are going to do when we all send our kids to school with no mask. You're going to turn them around and send them all home? What's going to happen? I don't know. You guys need to fight. It's our choice. If my kid comes to the school September 9th with no mask, and you send them home, I'm going to put a lawsuit into every single one of you. I pay my taxes, my kids got to go to school. That's the end.
I'll be very brief. I'm not here to debate masks or vaccines, but I do have a question that I can't seem to get an answer on. So my daughter is not.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can we just get your name and address?
My name is Tom Noel, and I live on R&D Lane. My daughter is 9. She's scheduled to start school here in September. And so she's immune suppressed. So I'm not going to debate masks or the effectiveness of masks. You know, she's had 38 operations, 2 liver transplants before she was 6 years old. She's one of the ones where, as a child, if she gets COVID, it's a death sentence. And I'm being told there is no virtual option available. So I know I'm not alone in the situation of other parents whose kids are medically fragile, and I'm just curious what's being done for them.
Well, I'll tell you what I can tell you, again, based on the most recent guidance that we have. There are provisions in the law that long preceded the COVID pandemic that provide for children who are unable to attend school because of a medical condition are entitled to home instruction. How that instruction is delivered, whether it's in person or virtual, is something school districts have some ability to manage, but there is a long-standing regulation that provides for that. There's a separate regulation that provides for education in school for children who are medically fragile, can attend school, but with certain accommodations that will allow them to be in school, and there's a whole separate legal framework around that. So in your particular situation, you know, if you contact the superintendent's office, they can work through with you which of those particular frameworks apply to your situation to make sure that you get the benefit of whatever the law provides for you.
Thank you.
Hi, happy birthday. I just had a quick question, piggybacking on what he had said. I know that a lot of other states utilize a K-12 at-home program, a homeschool program that is paid for by the district. Is there any possibility that you guys would be looking into something like that for situations like this? So that way a child like that can stay safe and actually get a good education instead of, I think, the last I had checked, as I was thinking, there was the at-home was like 10 hours a week, which isn't, I don't know if that's still the way it is, but is the district looking into creating or funding something like that where the parents don't have to come out of pocket and their kids can actually get a comparable education as they would in the classroom?
We're looking at point of view options right now, yes.
Any other public comments?
My name is Nicole Parks, 100 Seawood, Clipwood Beach. I wasn't going to speak, but just real quick. First, I wanted to thank you for lifting the mask mandate in June due to excessive heat that will still be here come September. Are we going to talk about that, or are we just going to pretend that it's still not going to be hot until about October, November? That was all I had to say. Thank you.
Hi there, good evening everyone. My name is Peter Ladati. I live over in the I section across the street. And I want to thank the board for everything they've done in the past year and a half throughout the pandemic, being very responsive to the community, hosting these meetings, being online. We were talking earlier about bringing back the virtual option for these board meetings. I do want to repeat, I think that is very important for parents who can't always be here in person. I had 2 kids in the district. One I just dropped off today at Rutgers and kind of raced back here to make the meeting. So now I only have 1 in the district. How many students are in the district? It's about 4,000, is that right?
Yeah.
4,000. So that's close to, let's say between 6,000 to 8,000 parents. There are about 60 here in this room tonight, and they all seem pretty universally opposed to the mask mandate. I'm not one of them. There were 50% of the parents last year that chose virtual schooling to keep our children home safe, because we did not feel safe sending our kids to school. I was one of them. I have vulnerabilities. I am a stroke survivor, and I was at high risk of COVID being a problem for me last year. After I got my vaccination early on for medical reasons, I did send my older son back to school because I feel it was important for the kids to be in school. With the vaccines today, we are certainly at a different point in the pandemic than we were last year. With the Delta variant, we are at a different point in the pandemic than we were in June, coming up on September here. I think we all agree that the schools can and should be open for in-person schooling now, but it needs to be done safely, and this is where a lot of the debate and the contention comes up here. So I just want to say, from my own experience with virtual schooling, which I think was a huge innovation that the teachers and the district put that all together, but despite all that, despite how hard we all worked for virtual learning and improving the technology over time, keeping our kids home for virtual learning was a huge sacrifice. It was a huge sacrifice we all made as parents to do that. And the negative impacts on our children are non-deniable. I think everyone knows that's why the importance of being in school is so important. Both of my children suffered setbacks. My sophomore failed multiple classes throughout the year, lots of challenges. My senior, who just went to Rutgers, he had a huge slide the second half of the year, dealing with the challenges of mental illness and health in my family. It's not been easy. I felt the pain, and it is a huge sacrifice. That's why I do believe it is important for the kids to be back here in person. That being said, and having made that sacrifice the past year, wearing this mask on my face, or having my children wear a mask on their face, is not a sacrifice anywhere in comparison to having our kids be home or learning virtually. Now, I understand it's not easy. I don't like wearing this thing. I'm sure little kids don't like it either. There are reasons for valid medical exceptions. I understand hearing some of the concerns from parents about different conditions of IEPs where it might make sense there has to be an exception. But overall, I support the mask mandate. And I know that's irrelevant because you guys have no choice because it's been an executive order. I know you're writing the letter to the governor, and my questions have to do with if you get that local control act, given all the things I heard that you use to decide on whether you implement masks, vaccination rates, the conditions in the school, I know we did all the big investments on the HVAC systems and things like that. Where would you be today? And what decision would you make based on the facts and data that you have from public health officials today if there was local control over the mask mandate? Well, actually, sorry, let me finish that question of thoughts. Hold on a second. So before you answer that, where do you today? Because I do want to know that. My question would be, what if this board decided not to have the mask mandate and make it optional, which to me defeats the whole purpose, it's either all or nothing. What makes Mattawa Aberdeen schools unique or different than the other schools, similar schools in our surrounding towns? Like East Brunswick, or West Windsor, or Edison. I'm not comparing us to the urban districts where there might be other problems, but like compared to our suburban districts, what would make us special to not have a mask mandate? With the current data right now, going into September, and obviously data can change, and at some point, hopefully we get past where COVID cases come down like they did last June, where we can make masks go away as the option. I'll stop there for your comments.
I mean, I think what we said is that we would definitely look at the vaccination rates, which are currently pretty high in the town. Our teachers are also roughly 80 to 90% vaccinated in the district. We don't have a sense of the vaccination rate amongst the kids. I can't even find that data on the state website. I have looked everywhere for that, so I don't have a date on that, quite frankly. And when someone else was speaking earlier about the data, there are pieces missing that I can't locate, find, so something like that would be very helpful to understand. I do think we have a very good HVAC system in place. We spent a lot of money on that. We've got the MERV 13 filters, so we do have that in place that a lot of other districts don't have. But quite frankly, I think we do have to look at the numbers. Right now, we're averaging in Mattawa Aberdeen about 40 cases a week. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but compared to where we were in June, when we were about 4 cases a week, two towns combined, and in September it was about 10 cases per week. We are a lot higher than where we were. So like all of those would factor in, and quite frankly, I think we would have to have the discussion discussion as to, with the health department as well as even with our physician, to make the decision what makes the most sense. And quite frankly, I would love to know where the community stands. Because we don't, we get the letters on both sides, and quite honestly, a ton flooded in last night that were for the mask mandate as well. So they may not be sitting here, but we hear from a lot of people in town that are not here in person, that are voicing opinions to us as well, similar to yours. So we take all of that into consideration, but I think it would be helpful to understand from the community at large where we stand. So it may mean, down the road, potentially asking that question.
I would appreciate that greatly because, again, the 60 here, very opinionated, and that's fair. It's a public forum. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. But I'm not convinced that this represents the majority of our community.
Agreed.
I feel bad, for people who legitimately have worries, I really do. But the whole thing is we're not just asking for one way. I don't understand why everyone just keeps on saying it has to be one way or this way. Listen, if you all think the mask works, cool, and that makes you feel better, no one's saying that no one shouldn't wear a mask. I just don't get it. Why? It just seems like everything today has to be all one way or all the other way. Just let it be a choice. If the mask works and you're wearing it, it's protecting you. And I do feel bad for people who are really high at risk. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but just be a choice. It's tiring at this point. Choice. That's all.
Lori Pinko, 168 Lloyd Road. Listen, everybody has a health issue. I had brain surgery last year, I had COVID this year, but I'm still all about choice. And I don't think anybody should be telling somebody else that they have to wear a mask because they're afraid. That's okay, you could be afraid, you could homeschool your child, you could do whatever you want. But we need choices. And I would really like for the board, like everybody else said, not to send a wishy-washy letter to the governor. He needs to know that people are tired of this. Enough is enough. If you're afraid, you can stay home, you can mask, you can live in a bubble, you can do whatever you like. Other people are not afraid. I have reasons to be afraid, but I'm not, because I live each day as it comes. And that's how most people should live their life. They shouldn't say that we should segregate our children. That's insane. It's insanity. And it's scary. People need to wake up and see what's really happening here. And it's a very dangerous precedent. You have people who want to segregate their children from other kids who are not vaccinated or who are maskless. It's dangerous, and people really need to address that. Thank you.
Hi, Stephanie Bonhart again. I just wanted to point out, I chose virtual last year for my child in the beginning of the school year not because I didn't think he was going to be safe, because I felt like 2 half days a week weren't good for him. I felt like if I kept him home, he'd be on a routine and a schedule, and I have a small baby, so as I know a lot of other people who were working during the day, they weren't able to get here in the middle of the day during the workday to pick up their kid, and that's why they chose virtual. Not because they didn't feel safe, it was because what daycare is open for 10 and 11-year-olds, or are you going to hire an Uber to go pick up your kid? No. Also, I loved my child's teacher in the beginning of the school year, and he didn't start. He started with just the virtual teachers, which kind of, the way that Lloyd Road handled it, wasn't a huge fan, because then we decided, I'll just stay with her. He's doing great, she's an awesome teacher, and then they gave them no choice, and they transitioned them into some of the kids in-person, instructional, and the kids at virtual being taught like that, which was awful. And then I said, okay, I'm going to send him the next market period. Oh, we're closed for the next 8 weeks because we don't have plexiglass. So that's why I just wanted to point out it wasn't because people didn't feel safe. It was because they really had no choice for 2 half days. It was either all or nothing, get a caretaker to stay at home, not for just 2 half days. And I agree with everyone else. Why does it have to be all or nothing? If you truly believe this little piece of fabric protects you from COVID, what does it matter if my child doesn't have a mask on? That's what I'm not political. I'm not trying to get into any of that. I'm more like on the surface, common sense,
critical thinking. If you're vaccinated, which we all know people still get COVID, and you're vaccinated, you're wearing your mask, what does it matter if I don't? Right? My biggest fear as a parent right now is getting this choice taken away from me, that the only way my kid's not going to be able to go to school without a mask is to vaccinate them. And that is not happening. And where am I left as, number one, a taxpayer in this town that I'm paying so much, that now I'm not even going to be able to send my kid to school, I'm going to have to pay for a private school? And the only private schools around here are religious. What if you don't want to send your kids to a religious private school? I mean, these are the choices that we're faced as parents, and it's very, very scary on the surface, as a parent, on the surface, as an American. Like, this is frightening. And I'm really hoping, like every other parent, that you just see it that way. It's a choice. I'm a cancer survivor. I, like the person ahead of me, I can't keep my kids in a bubble. Their mental health, their education is more important than me being terrified. And I feel for those families that have immunocompromised people in their home, and I hope that the board does give them solutions that make them feel comfortable. Segregating our kids? Are we really going to even have those words come out in 2021? I mean, you guys are terrified of the legal ramifications of kids showing up with masks or not. What do you think is going to happen if people start throwing around that we want to segregate our kids based off masks or vaccination? I mean, that's Looney Tunes, right? I don't know. I feel like I'm in the worst nightmare of my life, and my parents are like, I can't believe what you guys have to deal with as parents pre-pandemic in the age that we live in. Now, add this all on top of it, I can't even, it's hard to sleep at night. Every parent up here, every parent, your position that you're in, it's very upsetting. And I really hope, even though they said before that we're the minority, that we don't, I can't believe that. Because we see people out, right? I mean, restaurants are open, the boardwalk is open, the beach is open, everybody's out and about. I don't get it. So,
I don't think everybody up here said segregation, because that is not.
I know.
Okay, but yeah, no, I just wanted to clear that up. We are not separating the children based on vaccination. That is not our intent, and yes, the only thing.
Right, if that could be a mandate away. A mandate, just say that that's so, and then.
I fully understand, and I appreciate everybody expressing their concerns and their opinions tonight, and we will take this all into consideration as we finesse, change, or revise the letter that we were thinking of sending to the governor. So we hear everything. We also hear the parents that aren't here in person, because we do have to take their feedback into account as well. So we're trying to keep everybody safe. We're trying to make sure the schools stay open. To me, that is the #1 priority. Is ideally no disruption this year. I think everyone can agree the schools need to stay open full time in person. The kids suffer if they don't, so I think that has to be absolute #1 priority for everyone. And I hope that we all stand behind that as the priority and the goal.
Their health is the #1 priority.
Yes, sorry. I meant safely. Did you come to the podium? I'm sorry, I just can't hear.
I hear what you're saying, that keeping school open is the main priority. What good does school do if kids can't learn there? You're not the daycare center. You're not there just to keep our children somewhere while we're working. Your main goal is to educate them. You're not a hospital to provide a sanitary, environment where there's no bacteria floating around. You're here to educate them. This is all what you're supposed to do, nothing else. The rest, The rest of the stuff, we'll take care of it. Give them education. But how a child can go to kindergarten and learn to read without seeing teacher's face, how is it freaking possible? I'm sorry, I'm just so passionate about this because my child is supposed to learn to read this year. How is it supposed to do that? If his face is covered, the teacher's face is covered. And I'm sorry, during this board meeting, I couldn't tell who is speaking. How many people are sitting here? I couldn't understand which one of you were speaking out the words. Kids are going to be in exactly the same position. You're going to look at another wasted year of education. How are we going to get it back? How? This is insane. Small children, a child who has never worn a mask, he does not know what a mask is. He was in daycare where they have not worn masks. So now, when the pandemic is over, he's supposed to be reintroduced to it. It's insane. I'm sorry. And I do respect all the parents here who, want their kids to be masked. It is their right. It is their choice. I respect it. But they cannot tell me how to treat my child and what's better for my child. They want a blanket approach for every child in this town. It is not fair. It doesn't work like this. If they want to share the responsibility, they're more than welcome to pick up my mortgage. This is what they're supposed to do then. Thank you.
That being said, we're going to move on to a vote and roll call on agenda items. So curriculum and instruction, special services, personnel, policy, and finance. Very good. Ms. Friedman?
She's much better than she's much better than the last guy, so we're good.
Ms. Martinez? Mr. Maljohn? Mr. Farr? Ms. Whalen? I'm sorry, I'm listening to the distraction. Just the agenda items? All of them?
Okay, so I'd like to say yes, but I'd like to abstain from number 8 in the curriculum instruction. I wanted to read that over a little more thoroughly. Am I allowed to respectfully say that I'm not going to that? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Osborne?
Yes.
Mrs. Fuller?
Yes.
Any unfinished business? Any new business? Board member like to speak?
I guess I'm always interested in making a comment, but I'm actually sorry that the parents left. Because I think it's important that they do hear from us. I am a parent in the district. I was the board president when things got shut down. And I can tell this community that there was one priority, and that was to do right by these children and get them back into the building as quickly and as safely as possible. And while we were doing that, ensuring that we were giving them the best education that we could on the short notice we had the year before. But I think it's a fair question to ask what factors we look into. I can only speak on my own behalf, and some of the considerations that I have. I am a public employee. I'm mandated to wear a mask in my office now, so I wear it 7 hours a day, just like the teachers, just like the students. I fully understand how uncomfortable it is. I know how inconvenient it is to have it all up my glasses. But I also am of the belief that it might help. I don't know if it does fully or not, but it might help. And if I'm in a car and I have Mr. Rubin next to me and I stop short, I'm going to put my arm out. I know that's not going to do a lick of good, but I'm going to try and help and make sure that kids are safe. Mental health was a big issue last year, and some of the things that I take into consideration in regards to whether or not the mandate, the mask should be lifted or not, is the mental health of a child facing losing his or her sports. because she has or he has been exposed and now quarantined or sick. The reality is more kids are in fact getting COVID. It may not be a death sentence for most kids or even a majority or a strong majority, but it is in fact a sickness. It causes mental health problems from that sickness because they are quarantined. They may be losing out on that sports season that they had wanted to, that anxiety that follows. What about the child who may have caused that infection? What about the stress on that child who now doesn't have some friends talking to them because they're upset that they got sick because that kid got them sick? It's a horrible situation that we are all in. There is never going to be an answer that we can all agree on, but I think that we all definitely agree that getting these kids back into the building as safely as possible is important. As a matter of profession, I'm a public defender. I deal with the laws in the state of New Jersey. This executive order is in fact a law. I took an oath as a board member to obey it. Just like every other law, I'm not looking to make our law enforcement officers' lives more difficult by breaking them. I believe they're there for a reason. I may not fully understand it, I may not even fully agree with it, but I do think that it is important to respect it, and it is something that I will continue to do as a board member. However, in saying that, I do believe, and I am frustrated, that there is no goalpost of any type, that we can't see what metrics we could hit. We don't know exactly what data we have and what goals that we would need to make to go back to a mask optional, and that's something that I think we are deserving of. There is no doubt in my mind that Mrs. Scully is a top-notch researcher and does her absolute due diligence in everything that she looks up. I do my own, and I'm sure our board members do their own, and together as a board we make decisions. But they are always with the intent of making lives better for our children and our community, keeping in mind the safety of our staff and our community at large. But if we have an outbreak and we have to quarantine teachers, where does that put us? Why risk coming back in person? And those are the factors that I consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Foley? Yes, Ms. Martinez? So I agree with everything Ms. Freeman said, but my problem is this. I feel like the parents are speaking to us in a way where we can, I think they think that we have a lot more power and more choice. And unfortunately, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, obviously, but everything that people say, I agree with. I don't like it. I was so happy in June when I saw that it was optional masking. The thing is that, unfortunately, I'm not a parent, I'm a board member, so I can't go to Trenton, I can't write letters, I can't do all the things that a parent technically could do. So, you know, our hands are tied to a point. My job here is to educate the kids, secure the district, obviously safely, you know, health-wise, all these things. So if God forbid we push this envelope to the point where they pull our funding, then schools close completely. So these are all things that are on our lap. So even if all of these things you guys, we agreed with, we really don't have the power we think we do. Not to mention that we're a board of 9, which means that we vote, majority, if we did have a choice. Now, with that said, that's why we decided to write a letter. We don't want to be nasty, we don't want to aggravate, we don't want to unsettle this situation and bring light to ourselves because, God forbid, we are punished in some way and then the kids suffer. So we wrote a letter asking for, hey, can you help us tell you know, to figure out how we're going to become a district that can choose our own, make our own decisions based on our buildings and all the things we've talked about. So I liked the letter because, you know, we were nervous about, you write him, you threaten him, we're not going to listen. Other districts are saying, we're just going to take letters from parents. Okay, but the thing is then, once that happens and now we're breaking a law, we're hurting these kids because then we're putting the district at risk, the superintendent legally, us legally, the cost, the lawyers. This is all money coming out of the pockets of our kids. And God forbid, the worst case scenario, he pulls the funding. So I just want people to understand that it's not that we don't agree, it's that we just don't have the power that people think we do. And I would implore the community to bombard the governor, write letters, emails, go knock on the door, whatever you need to do, because as a parent, if I was still a parent in this situation with kids at that age, minor, you know, out of college, but I would be doing that because I could. We can't do that. So this is all we're doing, and we're treading lightly because we don't want there to be repercussions. So for all the parents, with all your passion and your energy, we get it, but if you could gear that towards where this is coming from, that would be awesome, and maybe there would be change if everybody got together and, you know, went in numbers and spoke out to the governor. You know, that's really all I have to say. It's just frustrating, and I get it. So thank you. Thank you.
After hearing, you know, both sides of the people that were here, and obviously people wanting parent choice and other people more insistent on the executive order staying in place. One thing that has now stuck in my head that was addressed to our president was the idea that, you know, we want to keep the schools open and we want to provide education. And some of the parents did address the idea is how are the students getting an education if you can't hear them? You can't, you know, see what they're saying. They can't learn to speak, and the mask does get in the way. So that's something that really has to be considered going forward with how the school or the district's going to handle not disrupting education, because the other part of that conversation was some of the parents said they're going to send their kids to school without a mask. Now that right there is disrupting education. We don't want the schools closed. We want to keep it full-time all day. You know, I don't know what's going to happen at the numbers and vaccines and the outbreaks, but if we have parents, you know, deliberately sending their kids with no masks, that is going to disrupt education, because how are those students going to be treated? So, you know, to me, that's also a big concern now. I mean, I am definitely a proponent for a respectful letter to the governor. You know, definitely with the idea that we want to make it a local decision, but according to the data. But we have to also think about what's going to happen now as we're opening up this floodgate, because there is so much adversary on both sides.
I just wanted to take a moment to, it's Joy, I just wanted to take a moment just to say thank you to the community that came out, because they did speak from their experiences. They shared their experiences and their heart, and I think that as a parent, I really could resonate with some of the things that they said, and it was thoughtful. It gave us all food for thought to now marinate on and now move forward together as a group. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
I'll second. All in favor?